Did you know that LinkedIn message ads get a 300% higher response rate than email? In this video, I'm going to show you step by step how you can make a message ad on LinkedIn. Now make sure you watch until the very end, because once I've shown you how to create a message ad, I'm going to share with you my top tips that are going to drive the best possible performance from your message ads. So before we get started, I just want to show you the basic anatomy of a message ad. So there are three main ways that prospects can engage with your message ad. They can click on your call to action button, engage with any hyperlinks that you've added in the message, and the other thing, which isn't used in this example, but you can actually use this space on the right hand side here to promote one of your own banners. But there's one thing to remember, that only applies on desktop. On a mobile, there's no banner ad. You would just literally have your message with the hyperlinks and a call to action button. So that's the anatomy of a message ad. Let's dive into my ad account and get started. So once you've logged into your LinkedIn ad account, the first thing you need to do is come over here, hit create, and then campaign. Now for the purpose of this, we'll imagine I work for a digital marketing agency and we want to use message ads to promote a virtual search engine marketing event. So let's go ahead and name our campaign something relevant and then choose an objective. Now it's important to remember that with message ads, you can only use them under three different objectives: website visits, lead generations, and website conversions. You can add a lead gen form to your sponsored message if you select the lead generations objective. You can drive up to 4 times more leads by adding a form directly to your message ad. So if your message ad is all about driving leads, it's definitely worth selecting that lead generation option and taking advantage of that form. But for the purpose of this, we just care more about driving traffic to our website to learn more about this search engine marketing event. So we're going to select website visits. Now we can choose who we want to see our ad by selecting a target audience. It's possible to load customer audiences from your customer lists you have, but for the purpose of this, we're going to build our audience from scratch based on the parameters that LinkedIn provides. So we're going to start by selecting people in the United States because we want this event to be promoted to marketers in the United States. And now that we've selected a country, we now need to think about, these marketing professionals that have an interest in search engine marketing, because we want this ad to be relevant. It wouldn't make sense just to promote it to any marketer. We want people that are interested specifically in search engine marketing. So we're going to narrow the audience further. Come to audience attributes, job experience, and job titles. Search for marketing. So we might find some marketing specialists, assistants. And we'll also think of people that have search in their title. There could be some search engine optimization specialists that we're interested in. Before you do this, definitely have a think about who your audience is. I'm really doing this top level at the moment just for the purpose of this. And now what we can do is we can just narrow this slightly further and just make sure that we're flagging only the marketing people that are actually interested in search engine marketing. So we'll do that by clicking narrow, audience attributes. Let's find some interests, member interests, general interests, and search for search engine marketing, search engine optimization. So I'm pretty happy with that. If you look on this right-hand side here, you can see that we're targeting about 1.9 million people. So it's still quite a broad audience. We could definitely refine this further if we want to, but just for the purpose of this tutorial, we're not really stuck on that. So now that we've got our target audience sorted, we can come down here to ad format. And probably the most important part of this is make sure you now select message ad, because remember, your campaign can only use one ad format. So we've selected message ad. Now we can come down to budget. How you choose to set your budget will vary, but I like to keep things simple for each campaign by setting a lifetime budget for the entire campaign. That way I can easily forecast my spend over the course of the entire campaign and ensure I don't overspend and get shouted at by my finance team or any clients that I'm working with. So we'll go here, select lifetime. And as you can see here, $2,250 is the lifetime budget that LinkedIn's put out there for us. And you can see on the right hand side, it's kind of forecasting what we think we will actually spend and how many message sends that will deliver. So that's one key thing to remember with message ads. You're not paying per click, you're paying per message send.
So we'll come on to this later, but that's why it's so important that your message ad is of high quality, because if things like the subject line aren't very good, people aren't going to open your message, but you're paying to send it anyway. So as we come over to this budget, we can just tweak things and keep an eye over here on this right-hand side and see how this changes. So instead of $2,250, what if we budgeted $3,000? You'll see our message has jumped right up here. So we've gone from about 2,300 message sends, I think it was, up to at least 3,100. So really play around with this as well as the start and end dates, just to kind of get a feel for exactly what kind of reach you're going to have with your message ad. You can set up conversion tracking to measure actions users take on your website after clicking or viewing your ad. I won't cover that in this tutorial, but it's definitely worth setting this up to add that extra level of reporting and visibility to see what measurable impact your ads are actually having. So we're happy with this section, so we can click next. We'll save our ad. So now we're at the point where we can create our ad. So you can actually have multiple message ads under this campaign, which is great for testing which USPs resonate more with your audience. Remember, we're promoting a search engine marketing summit that's going to cover various topics. So we might have different messages just using a different topic that's covered within that search engine summit. And that way we'll get the feedback to see which topics seem to be most important to people, and we can maybe lead with that in our other marketing activities. But we start now by just clicking create new ad. And the first thing we need to do is choose our sender. This is who is going to be sending the message to our audience. And as a default, you'll see over here the people that are assigned to your ad account. So for this ad account, it's just me that's here, but if there were other people that were members, you'd see them all listed here as well. And if none of those people are relevant, you can click add sender and add somebody else to send this message. So when it comes to choosing a sender, I think that's something that's often overlooked. You need to make sure that you've got a sender that is super relevant to what you're promoting. So for this search engine marketing event, I wouldn't necessarily just have a marketing assistant as the sender or somebody from the admin team. It needs to be somebody reputable. So I'm thinking a head of business development, a head of search, something like that. Your job title really does stand out, and that is going to encourage people to click and ultimately trust what it is that you're selling in that message. But for the purpose of this, we're quite happy for me to just stick as the message sender. So we need to just come up here quickly before I forget and name this ad. So we'll just call this message ad 1. And now we're ready to actually write our message. So we click here, and the first thing you need to do is the subject line. For me, the subject line is probably the most important part of your message. As I said earlier, you're paying to send your message. You're not paying for people to open it or people to click. It's literally every time a message sends, LinkedIn charges you. So if people don't find your subject engaging, they won't open your message. You could actually have the world's best message inside, but if your subject line is crappy, people are never going to open it, and you're just going to be wasting your marketing dollars. Short and impactful subject lines with a really clear value proposition tend to work best. So keep that in the front of your mind. What value are you offering the recipient, and why should they open your message? If you can explain that in 60 characters or less, you're onto a winner. So here's a subject I worked on earlier. You're invited. Join Search Summit and Master Marketing. So what this subject line does is it's short, sweet, to the point. It tells the person they're invited to something. It gives them that value proposition of, if you come to this, you are going to master marketing. And now in this main message text section, this is where we add our actual message itself. So here's one I worked on earlier. Overall, you'll see this is a really short, sweet, to the point message. Now, one thing you can do, so rather than say, hi, first name, obviously you're going to be sending this to so many different people. And what you can actually do is insert some custom fields. So we'll delete first name, go to custom fields, and you can see here that you can add in these different options. So if I select first name, what that's going to do is it's going to pull in the recipient's first name. So for example, if this was going to John, it would say, hi, John. And then the next message maybe goes to Bob. Hi, Bob. Just a really good way of just adding that extra level of personalization to your communication. Other things you can do that I really recommend taking advantage of is using hyperlinks. So for example, this first line here, I introduce myself. Hi, I'm Chris, head of search at Exactly Digital. So people might think, who on earth is Exactly Digital? So it makes sense to hyperlink that. There's no limit on how many hyperlinks you can add into your message, but don't go overkill. Just add them where they're relevant. So for this one, it is relevant to let people know who this company is. They're going to be interested to find out more. You could also hyperlink Search Summit. That is the name of the event that we're inviting them to. So it, again, makes sense for them to want to click to learn more about that event. But at the same time, what you can do with that is we can add in a call to action. So our call to action is going to be learn more. They want to learn more about the event. And as I showed you earlier, this call to action is really bold at the bottom of your message and just stands out so people can clearly click on that main CTA and go and do whatever it is you want them to do. So another thing you can do, it is optional, but I really think it's worth doing, is uploading a banner. So this on a desktop is going to sit to the right-hand side of your message. It's just another bit of real estate, another opportunity for you to communicate a key message to your audience. So it's there, it's free, you may as well use it. Okay, and then now once we're happy with our message, all we need to do is come over here and click create. So as I mentioned earlier, now if you want to, you can create a second ad. You could do that by duplicating this ad and maybe just tweaking a couple of things, or create an entirely new ad itself. For the purpose of this campaign, we're quite happy with just the one message ad. And before we can go through now and click next, we want to see how this ad is going to look in the user's inbox. So we do that by coming here, clicking on these three dots, and we send ourselves a test message. And you'll see here, message was sent successfully. Now what we do is we go to LinkedIn to our main inbox. So go to your and that's it. So here's a preview of our message here. So you can see everything that we did earlier. You've got the message clearly displayed here. We've got our hyperlinks and we've got our bold call to action. We've got our learn more down here, and it's also up the top here. And then that cherry on top is that banner image I spoke about. Again, it is optional, but I think you can agree here. It just adds that extra opportunity to promote something and really just ties this all together nicely. So here, one tip, definitely check your links. Check that you click on these and they go to the correct places. The last thing you want to do is send out this message ad, potentially spend thousands of dollars, and for whatever reason, you've made an error with the link. I can be honest and say I've done that before. I think many people have done that. But just learn from your mistakes and definitely check that these links work. So now that we're happy with that, we can go back to the ad area and we'll click next. Just give everything here the once over, just double check we're happy with our targeting, our overall budget, the schedule, and the ads in the campaign. And then just click launch campaign. So there's a few sponsored messaging best practices that I want to share with you. First, make sure you're using a credible and relevant sender. So for us promoting this search summit, the last thing we want to do is use somebody who works in admin or finance to send the message. It's just not relevant at all. So when you get somebody send you a message from a finance team promoting a search engine summit, you're not going to trust what they say as much as if that message came from the head of search or a business development manager. Next up, one of the first things people see when they open your sponsored message is your profile picture. So if you have a low quality profile picture that's maybe a blurry selfie or shows you on the beach rather than in the office, that's not going to give you much credibility either. So what you want to do is have a nice high quality portrait photo of yourself to make sure you're smiling in that photo. Show that you're a friendly, welcoming person. Also, you've got to bear in mind that people don't have endless amounts of time. So in that subject line and those first few words of your message itself, you need to clearly introduce who you are and what your objective is of this message. Instantly in that first few words, people know who you are, they know that you're credible, and they know what you're offering. And just like with any kind of marketing, we want to make sure that our message is as relevant as possible to the individual receiving it. And what we can't realistically do is write 5,000 different versions of our message so that it's as relevant as possible to each individual that opens it. But what we can do is use LinkedIn's targeting to make our own segments and make segment-specific messages. So for example, going back to the Search Engine Summit example, we could say target people that work in marketing in fashion companies and have an interest in search engine marketing. And we could make a message that's tailored towards people that work in the fashion industry. And we could do exactly the same thing for people that work in the gaming industry, and another one for people that work in e-commerce. And that's minimal effort on our part, but it's going to make the message far more relevant to the recipient and therefore make it more likely that they're going to take any actions that we want them to take from that message. Lastly, you need to make sure you're using concise language. Nobody wants to see a message that is paragraphs upon paragraphs that essentially looks like a wall of text. So try and keep your message under 500 characters, and where possible, use bullet points and subheadings. Make it a real skimmable thing. Don't make it feel like a big ebook that somebody's got to read. It needs to feel like an advertisement, something that people can just quickly skim through and get the gist of what it is that you're talking about.
The thing is, message ads on their own are not enough to drive you success on LinkedIn. If your recipients don't know who you are, you're little better to them than just a cold caller. So what you need to be doing is running other LinkedIn ad types alongside your message ads. Remember that on average it takes people 8 touch points before they're ready to make a purchasing decision. Luckily, I've already created a video that shows you how you can create awesome ads that get clicks on LinkedIn. So make sure you go and watch that video right now.